Hi guys. Today's lesson 7, day 1. We're starting to talk about the relationships between angles when two lines that are parallel are cut by a transversal. But let's back up from that. Okay, so far we've seen a diagram that looks like this, where I give you, say, this angle right here. Oh, let's say it's 50 degrees. Okay, and you know that the angle opposite that, or vertical to that, is also 50 degrees. Okay, those are vertical. Then the other two angles, this one and this one, you figure out what they are by subtracting. 180 take away 50 is 130. So this angle is 130 and this angle is 130 degrees. Okay. Well, what we're adding to this knowledge today is if I'm going to add to this drawing, okay? Oh, nope, come here. I'm going to bring in another line. Okay? If I bring another line in here, and this line isn't just any line, this line here is parallel to this line up here. Okay? And that creates a special situation. Okay, so if I take this set of angles up top and I compare it to this set of angles down here, what you'll find is that they are, well, if I can get it to line up. Okay, close enough. Okay, they are exactly the same. So when you have two lines that are parallel, okay, so this line and this line are parallel, and they are intersected by or cut by a transversal, what that creates is a set of angles up top that are vertical and supplementary, and then an identical set of congruent angles down below where that second parallel line crosses. They're the exact same. So if we go to, the front half of your homework tonight, it's all going to be problems like this, where you're given one of your angles is labeled. And then you go through and label all the rest. So if this is 58, then this one is 58. And to figure out A and B, 180 minus 58 equals 122. So 122 and 122. And once you get all the top half, you have all the bottom half. In fact, some people label all the 58s first. Okay? Okay, so we've talked about vertical angles before, but I'm going to reiterate the vertical angles because they are found in this diagram. We've got two, and very key thing here, congruent. In fact, I don't want that to be blue. Congruent angles. Congruent, remember, means equal, that are across from each other. Okay, so for example, angle 2, or angle 3 and angle 4 would be an example of vertical angles. So would angle 1 and angle 2. Okay, they are right across from each other. Okay, angle 5 and angle 6, they're right across from each other. And angle 7 and angle 8 right across from each other. Okay, corresponding angles. All right, guys, so on this diagram right here, remember when I took this part? Let me erase some stuff here. I took these measurements and I slide them down to these measurements. Okay, same kind of idea. Okay, corresponding angles would be if I took 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I slide this down and lay it on top of these angles down here, okay, 1 and 5, 1 and 5 match up. 3 and 7 match up. 2 and 6 match up. 4 and 8 match up. Okay, so that's the idea with corresponding, is whatever angle you're talking about in the top part of the diagram, what's the same angle down at the bottom part of the diagram? Same position on opposite lines in the diagram. So 3 is on the top line, 7 is on the bottom line. Okay, so we color coded this in class. Well, we made a whole list. So angle 1 and angle 5 would be corresponding. 1, 5. Angle 2 and angle 6. Angle 3 and angle 7. Angle 4 and angle 8. Those are all examples of corresponding. So like I'll just pick one, 2 and 5. Or excuse me, 2 and 6, not 2 and 5. 2 and 6 would be an example of corresponding. Okay, alternate interior angles. All right, if we're talking about interior, what we are referring to is inside the parallel line. So we're not talking about angle 8, angle 3, angle 1, or angle 6. We're only talking about angles that are inside these parallel lines. Okay, so 2, 5, 4, and 7. Alternate, we're talking about opposite sides. And still keyword here, congruent. Okay, 2 congruent angles inside the parallel lines on opposite sides of the transversal. So if we're talking about angle 2, also guys remember acute versus obtuse. Angle 2 is acute, it's less than 90. 5 is obtuse, so it's not congruent to 2. 4 is obtuse, it is not congruent to 2. 7 is acute. Okay, so 2 and 7 are opposite sides of the transversal and inside the parallel lines, and they are congruent. Alternate exterior angles are just the opposite. Okay, we're talking about exterior or outside angles, so we're not talking about 6 or 5, we're not talking about 1 and 3. All right, we're talking about 8, 7, 2, and 4. Again, we're still talking about opposites. So if I were thinking about angle 8 and trying to find its alternate exterior, that's obtuse. So we're going to go to the other side of the transversal. Well, 7 is acute, so that's not congruent. Come down here. 2, acute, that's not congruent. 4 is opposite side of the transversal. 2 is not only acute, but it's also not on the opposite side of the transversal. Okay, 4 is other side of the transversal. It's obtuse and it is congruent. Okay. Thanks and have a great day.